Hello, and welcome back to the Beyond Paranormal Investigations podcast. I'll be your host, Nathan Smith.
I'd like to welcome back a previous guest. She has a new story for us today. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me again.
All right. Well, tell us this new story you have for us.
All right. Well, this story actually starts back in the 70s in a factory in Obion, in the town of Obion, Tennessee. It's shut down now, but it was Canary Corporation. It was Canary Corporation before it was shut down. And before that, it was a factory named Slant. Okay. Back in the 70s, you weren't allowed to smoke in the factory. It was a clothing factory. Okay. One of the women that worked there decided that she was going to go in the bathroom and sneak a cigarette by the window. Well, her husband busts into the plant with a shotgun and, finds her and goes in the bathroom and kills her. He was convinced, he shot her dead in the bathroom. He was convinced that she had been cheating on him. I don't know if she was or if she wasn't, but he thought she was, so he shot her dead. Well, he went to jail, and he went to jail and had been in jail. He's dead now. But this is a story that has been passed on, and a lot of people that live in Obion probably know about it. I know about it because my mother worked at Canary Corporation. So, everybody that worked there, they'd heard the stories, and they knew what had happened there. And stuff happened to people that would work there. I've heard stories about people going into the women's bathroom that she was shot and killed in, which is like towards the front of the building. Like you can see the window to the women's restroom. If you were to drive by it, you would see the window to the restroom she was shot in. But people would go in the women's restroom, women would go in the women's restroom by themselves, and they would hear toilet paper rolls rolling in the other stall. And, of course, they were the only one in the room. Really, really freaky. And just other little stuff like, noises and weird vibes that people would get. I even remember hearing a story. My mother, she was like a general manager for the factory. She and the owner of the factory were the only two people that had keys to this place. She locked it up every single night. She was the last one to leave, and normally the first one there in the morning. But her boss and the owner, his name was A.T., and A.T. had a sweet tooth. He would always keep chocolate chip cookies in his desk, and one night he left and he came back, and there were cookies, like that somebody had taken the cookies out of his desk and crumpled them all over his chair, his desk, but not really in the floor. And they hadn't touched anything else. Like, nothing was taken, nothing was moved except for the cookies. And the cookies had been sprinkled all over his chair and his desk, which is kind of weird. I mean, a lot of weird stuff happened, and they thought that somebody was was breaking into the factory. They thought somebody was breaking into the factory and messing with stuff because just weird stuff was always happening. And I'm not even kidding you, man. If any of you guys don't believe me, you can drive by it for yourself. They thought people were breaking in, so they put bars on all the windows. That did not happen until about 15 years ago that happened. 15 to 20 years ago, probably. But they put bars on the windows because they were afraid that somebody was breaking in, and still stuff continued to happen. And, of course, everybody always chalked it up to the woman that had been shot there, which, I mean, That seems like the logical, well, probably not for everyone, but that seems like a logical answer to me. And for a lot of other people. But my personal experience with this ghost happened when I was about 16 years old. And at that time, we didn't have internet in my house. So I would beg my mom to carry me up to the factory so I could use her computer in the front office. And she never wanted me to. She never wanted me to go up there and was like, you know that, you don't need to be there this late at night and stuff happens. And, I was like, oh, it's okay. It's all good. I'll be all right. And I would always just go up there and sit up there. And I did it quite frequently. And nothing ever really happened to me until one night. I was sitting there and I just got this feeling that someone was like inches away from me. Like not even inches, like they were like almost like I was face to face with someone I couldn't see. It was a really, I've only gotten the feeling one other time, and I already told you about that. But, and I'm like shaking it off, and I'm like, come on, shake it off, it's okay. And inside the plant, of course, this being like a clothing factory, they make like pajamas and stuff. The floors are all concrete, and then you've got all this big heavy machinery, and then they're in the centers, and like right if you were to walk out like from my mom's office, then if you walk out, I mean, it takes you like right there out into the plant. It's just a few steps away from her office. And they had these big old wooden tables, just huge wooden tables that they would have sewing machines on. And at that time, you could smoke. In the 70s, you couldn't smoke, which sounds crazy, but they couldn't smoke then. But whenever, at that point in time, you could smoke in the factory. So they had these huge round metal ashtrays that they would, sit there for when they smoked. And I got that weird feeling, and I just shook it off. And, not even a minute later, I hear this horrible, god-awful screech. And, oh my gosh, I think every hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I stood up, and I was like, holy shit, because I was the only one in that place. I was the only one, and my mom, other than the owner, was the only person to have a key. There are bars on all the windows. Nobody was in that place except for me, and I hear it, and
There weren't any night guards?
No. It's O'Brien, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's a small, rinky-dink town. There was never anything like that at all, which, they thought, if they had thought that there was really someone breaking in, they probably would have gotten guards. But no, there were never any guards because everybody always chalked everything up to the place being haunted. Yeah, so, everybody just assumed that it was haunted. That's why they never had any guards. But, right after I heard, back to my experience, right after I heard this table being dragged across the floor, right after that it sounds like something is knocked into the floor, which I assume is an ashtray because it was round. Because, like if you ever drop change or you ever drop something around and it'll roll, like that's what it did. It made this rolling sound, like, metal and concrete, or not but, just rolling. It was so freaky. The first thing I did, I just picked up the phone and I was scrambling to dial my home number. And my mom picked up and I said, Mom, come get me right now. Threw the phone down and ran out. I didn't even hang the phone up. I just threw it down, left everything the way it was, and I waited outside till my mom came and got me. And my mom had to go back inside and turn everything off, which I was reluctant to go back in. And I can't actually remember whether I went back in or not, but I did end up going back in there afterwards. Like, a while later, and nothing ever happened, although I would get weird feelings, but I would just talk to her. No lie, I would say, I know that you're here. I know what happened to you. You know, please just don't bother me. And nothing ever happened. But it was pretty terrifying. And another time, because after it happened to me, I told a few of my friends about it, and, you know, they wanted to go check it out, so we grabbed my mom's key, and me and 3 other people went in there and did a little ghost hunting, which we heard boxes fall. I was too scared, because we went out on the plant floor, like, it's one thing to be in my mom's office right there next to the exit. And I mean the floor, I mean you can walk right out of the floor, the plant floor, and then there's a little room, and then you can walk out to the outside. But I was not about to go deep into the factory because we couldn't really turn any of the lights on. I mean, and who turns on the lights anyway when you go ghost hunting? But you know, one of my friends says that he called an image of her, which I don't know about that, but I do know that I heard, I'm pretty sure they heard too, the boxes drop. But, you know, I don't know. The first real experience I had there was the biggest one, the most profound one. And another thing that I did leave out that would happen, and something that I really paid attention to after that happened to me that night, which I don't know if it happens now because I don't do it anymore, and I'm not even sure if there's electricity running to the plant at all. But you used to be able to drive by the factory, and like I said at the beginning of the story, the bathroom that she got shot in, you can see the window from driving by. And my mom was always the last person out of this building. She shut the plant down. She turned out every light that needs to be turned out and shut everything down. And we would drive by whenever it would be getting dark or it would be dark, and the woman's restroom light would be on. And I really paid attention after this whole experience happened to me, but my mom would always say the same thing every time. And I mean, I think she was a little obsessed with it herself because, you know, she knew she turned that light off. You know what I'm saying? When you know that you do something like that, and then it turns itself on. You know, because that's what she'd say every time we go by and it'd be on. I know I turned that light out.
That freaked me out a little bit, too.
Yeah. I mean, even like driving by it during the day, like after it's shut down, or right when it gets shut down, and you know it's off. Like, I remember visually seeing the light off and then going back later and the light being on. Just, just really weird stuff. Now, I don't know if it's haunted anymore. I haven't been in there in a really, really long time. So, I mean, I don't know. And the place is locked up and abandoned. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience.
Wow.
That's my story. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It is.
If you're into some serious ghost hunting, like, I'm not trying to, give anybody any bad ideas, but if you're definitely into ghost hunting, you should definitely check that place out.
And remember, you should always make sure that if you're going to go into a place that you have permission to be there. You don't want to run into any trouble with the police or anything. So make sure you have permission to be there. All right, well, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you coming back and telling us another story.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It's always great.
All right, thank you. All right, well, that's all we have for this episode. But I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us. And if you have any stories to share with us, if you would like to be a guest on the show, if you have any questions, or if there's a topic you would like to hear discussed on the show, you can reach me at thebeyond_pi@hotmail.com, all lowercase letters. Again, thebeyond_pi@hotmail.com. or you can join my group on Facebook, The Beyond Paranormal Investigations. Good night, and thanks for listening.